Headliner and former vice presidential candidate Tim Walz bluntly telling the crowd Democrats are losing working class voters.
But somewhere we strayed from our North Star. Right here, right now, Trump and the Republicans are going to screw stuff up enough with the working class. We're going to have an opportunity to be their champion.
Have you ever watched someone walk straight into a political trap when they built themselves? Because that's exactly what Kamala Harris is doing right now. It's sort of like watching someone set the mousetrap, then sit down and stick their hand in it. Now, look, we've all seen politicians who can't read the room, but Kamala, she's not even in the room. And maybe that's because she never had to earn her place in it. She's been, if we're being honest, she's been ushered up the ladder, not because of results, but because of her relationships, because of image and identity politics, not impact. I've said this before and I'll say it again. You can always tell the difference between someone who is here to serve you and someone who is here to serve themselves. You see, public servants talk about policy. They talk about solutions. They talk about the people. Self-servers, they talk about themselves. They talk about power and they talk about winning. Now, let me ask you, can you name one real measurable accomplishment in Kamala's decades-long career? Just one policy that changed lives, one reform that cleaned up a system, one bill that lifted someone out of poverty or brought justice to someone who needed it. Exactly. What we get instead are slogans, we get rehearsed laughter, we get press-friendly platitudes, a fog of good gaslighting on endless repeat over and over again, and yet somehow she's being floated for an even higher office? Think about that.
Notably missing was his running mate, Kamala Harris. She appeared only in video amid chatter about if she'll enter the race to replace Governor Gavin Newsom.
Our fight to advance freedom and justice must continue.
If Harris decides to get in, she'd be an instant frontrunner. But experts say it wouldn't be without a primary fight.
She'd probably have the most uphill fight of any frontrunner that I've ever seen in politics, California or elsewhere. Voters generally don't like coronations unless they like the person being coronated.
Kamala Harris is stuck. And the wild part, she doesn't even know it yet. Word is she's thinking about running for governor of California. Yeah, California, a state that's already buckling under homelessness, under crime, sky-high taxes, and a mass exodus of working-class families. And Kamala Harris wants to inherit all of that chaos from none other than Gavin Newsom. The man who locked down California, the man who dined without a mask on at his French Laundry and still somehow wants to be president. See, what you have to understand is these two don't care about fixing anything. They care about positioning. They care about power. They'll smile on camera while people sleep in tents just 2 blocks away. They'll throw Hollywood fundraisers while fentanyl wipes out entire communities. It's not just tone deaf. These people don't even have souls. And here's the twist. The donors, the same elite class that bankrolled her Senate run and her vice presidency, they're pulling back. According to Politico, the big-name California donors who once wrote 6-figure checks aren't even pretending to be excited. Why? Well, one reason is they say she helped to cover up Joe Biden's mental decline, but let's be honest, it's more than that. Kamala is too exposed now. The curtains have been pulled back. When asked about real problems, public safety, cost of living, education, she stumbles, she pivots, or lashes out. Why? Because she doesn't have any answers. And when you don't have a plan, all you've got left is performance. And Californians, well, Californians that know what's popping, have had enough performances to last a generation.
Saying growing questions surrounding President Joe Biden's cognitive health could hurt his former VP.
The biggest challenge for Harris is the Joe Biden question. What did she know and when did she know it?
Harris is expected to make a decision by the end of summer.
Other candidates for California governor include former Congresswoman Katie Porter, former Health Secretary Javier Becerra, Lieutenant Governor Eleni Koulianakis on the Democratic side, and for Republicans, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco and former Fox News host Steve Hilton are hoping for a GOP comeback. Those are just some of the more than a dozen who are already interested in running, and we are exactly 1 year out from the 2026 primary on June 2nd next year.
Now, it's important to note that the media wants you to think the only reason people are turning on Kamala Harris is because of the Joe Biden mental decline scandal. But that's really just their cover story. That's like their safety net. just in case she's the only option they have left on the bench. But let's be real, regular people, working folks, they've got plenty of reasons to be fed up with Kamala Harris. And it starts with the fact that she stands for absolutely nothing. Remember when Trump floated the idea of no tax on tips? Suddenly, just a few weeks later, bam, Kamala Harris jumps on the bandwagon, no tax on tips, she announces. But where was that policy before? Nowhere. She didn't lead on it. She just copied it. Just like a student who forgot to study and cheats off the smart kid next to her. That is not leadership. That's political cosplay. Kamala doesn't come with her own plan. She waits for her donors to give her one. Corporate interests say jump. She says how high. That's not a public servant. That's a status chaser, addicted to fame, addicted to clout, and the illusion of power. And here's the danger. You see, people like that will do anything their donors say. Or worse, they'll do nothing at all. And guess who's stuck with the bill? Us. We'll still be paying higher taxes. We'll still be walking past tent cities. We'll still be watching the streets pile up with trash, with needles and broken promises. MSDNC and CNN can spend it all they want. But even the donors are waking up. Six-figure checks, they're not flowing in like they used to. Why? Because they can see it now. Kamala has no vision. She's not honest. She has no traction with everyday citizens. Not even identity politics can carry her anymore.
When we ask that question nationally, who folks want to see as the next leader of the party, as the presidential nominee in 2028, Democrats nationwide don't necessarily agree with that. So we have Pete Buttigieg at 16%, followed by Kamala Harris at 12%, Gavin Newsom also at 12%, and then all others are under 10%. So, I don't think that this necessarily speaks to the progressive wing of the party. I wouldn't label most of these candidates as progressives. Now, if we look a little bit further down, it is interesting. We see that AOC is at 7%. So she does okay here, tied with Josh Shapiro, also at 7%. Now, AOC leads with those who are under 30 years of age. That's maybe not surprising. We're going to see the most progressive folks in sort of that age bracket. And then Newsom and Buttigieg do best with those who are older, over the age of 60 roughly. So again, I don't see a groundswell for progressive candidates here, but I do think that AOC sort of holds her own, at least in this test ballot.
Okay, now let's talk numbers, because facts are what matter. Not feelings, not slogans, just cold, hard data. Kamala Harris is polling just 12% in the early Democratic field for 2028. 12. That's barely ahead of Gavin Newsom and Pete Buttigieg, two other politicians that have already proven that they're more flash than substance. And let's not forget, Kamala was just vice president. She should be dominating this race, not scraping the bottom of it. But that's what happens when someone is handed everything and learns nothing. You have to understand that Kamala has been pushed into position after position by insiders who believe hype is more important than results. And now she's too out of touch to realize people never really wanted her. Not in 2019, not in 2020, and definitely not now. But delusionally, she keeps pushing forward because someone in their ear keeps whispering, "They love you, Kamala." And she believes it because she wants to believe it. Truth is, she wouldn't even get hired at a regular private sector job with this resume. She has no vision. She's not a leader. No real world results. Just phony slogans and that same forced laughter, followed by nothing. And regular folks, we're tired of this. We're not asking much. We just want to earn a livable wage. We want to be able to buy a home. We want to be able to raise a family. We want to be able to walk outside without going broke. We're not focused on plastic surgery bills in foreign countries. We're not worried about men playing in girls' sports. We're definitely not interested in Kamala flying overseas to sell social experiments with our tax dollars. None of that was ever on our ballot. But they keep spending our money anyway on things no one voted for. And people are done with it.
The first debate of the 2024 presidential campaign is now history. The fallout from it is just getting started. Joining us now is Vice President Kamala Harris.
I'm talking about 3.5 years of performance in work that has been historic.
But is that the man who we saw on the stage tonight? Is that the person you see in meetings every day?
I'm not going to spend all night with you talking about the last 90 minutes. When I've been watching the last 3.5 years of performance.
Now, of course, we have some pundits out here pretending there's still a moderate lane in the Democratic Party. Let me break it down to you. That lane has been closed for years. There's no exit ramp, no shoulder, and definitely no room for common sense in the progressive Democratic sector. Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, Bernie Sanders, they're all reading the same progressive script. And I say progressive lightly because the progress they're pushing has nothing to do with jobs, has nothing to do with education, has nothing to do with lowering anybody's rent. No, their idea of progress is all about sex. Sex. Identity and division. That's it, and that's all. It's not economic progress. It's all ideological theater. Contrary to what they say, they want us divided. Not as Americans, not even as neighbors, but as tiny tribes constantly clashing over who's more oppressed, more seen, more included. How are you unifying a country when all you talk about is what separates us here? We live in the same cities, go to the same schools, we speak the same language, and yet somehow we're all alien species to each other now. That is not progress. That is a psychological operation. And it started back during the Obama years. The plan was pit people against one another, fracture the middle class, and while everyone's distracted, take power. And they say Trump wants to be a king. Look, if we're being honest, most Americans are naturally conservative. Not politically necessarily, but practically. We want to protect what we built. We want to grow it. We want to pass it down. We don't want to watch it get bled dry for some fringe fantasy about ego and identity. But the left is locked in now. This is the hill they've chosen. And if we let them, they'll drag the rest of us down with them.
She tried, didn't she? Former Vice President Kamala Harris is yet to announce her next move politically, but according to a report from Politico, some California Democratic donors, they are not thrilled about the idea of her running for governor.
Yeah, Kamala, I got basically 2 words for you. Don't run. I think she's walking into a trap. And there's a top reason why I think she'll be a terrible candidate, among many.
All right, according to one anonymous donor who gave 6 figures to Harris's 2024 campaign, here's the statement anonymously. Kamala, just remind you, we are in this complete S-storm. Biden, we got bamboozled. I think she did the best she could in that situation, but obviously she knew about the cognitive decline too. I've written so many checks because I knew the Trump administration would be horrible. But we're living in a nightmare because of the Democrats. I'm furious at them, truly. Southern California fundraiser had similar thoughts. Here they are. Donors realize it's just going to bring up the whole pathetic last presidential, which no one wants to hear about again. And then it's the whole, did you know Joe Biden thing? She stood still. She still would probably lead, apologies, but honestly, no one is incredibly pumped. According to Scott Drexel, Bay Area-based donor advisor, here's this to consider. Many Democratic givers don't blame Harris for the November outcome, but neither are they inclined to see Harris waltz into the race and expect the party to automatically fall behind her. And others told Politico that the longer Harris waits, the less momentum she has. Drexel stated this, it's very fair to say there's not an overwhelming clamor for her candidacy. Very hard for there to be one if it's not 100% clear she really wants to do it. Mather Martin, San Francisco-based fundraiser who worked on previous Harris campaigns, told Politico, there was more enthusiasm at first. I think it waned a bit. But Martin also stated that he believes Harris could still run a strong campaign for governor of California. According to Politico, Harris plans to make a decision on her future plans in late summer. These are the 3 options she's weighing. Aforementioned run for California governor in 2026, run for president in 2028, or stay a private citizen, make money, stay out of politics.
Now, I've got to be honest. I'm glad to see it. The donor class, those cocktail party power brokers, they're finally saying what the rest of us have been screaming for years. We're done. One Southern California fundraiser put it perfectly. He said, running Kamala brings up the whole pathetic last presidency, and it was pathetic. No one wants to hear about that again. Translation, Kamala Harris reminds people of the Biden disaster and a whole lot more. Now, mainstream media will only talk about the Biden part because it's the most obvious, but let's be real, it's deeper than that. Kamala's credibility never existed. What she did have was a perfect storm of identity politics, corporate money, and media spin. A feel-good narrative sold to Americans as representation. But once people started digging, especially voices like Candace Owens, the whole illusion started to crack. You see, suddenly folks started asking, wait a minute, is she even who she told us she was? I mean, her ethnicity, her accent, even her personality seems to shift depending on the room she's in. That's not authenticity, that's performance. And this is exactly what career politicians do. They sell you image over substance. They sell you optics over action, and they do it every time. Now, the checks are drying up. The donors are ghosting, the credibility shot, and the career crumbling. And I've got to say, I am not mad at it because it's time for her, Newsom, Pete, and many others to go.
Yeah, so there's a ton of reasons not to run. So what if she loses and she gets Andrew Cuomo'd, right? And then leaves her career basically in embarrassing fashion. She's gonna have to answer the Biden question. There's many, many more, but there's one that I wanna focus on. She's not sure if she wants to run, and people aren't overly excited about her. Why? What's the core reason?
Yeah.
The core reason is because she's not actually trying to fix something. She's not running to get something done. So for example, like if I was gonna run, and the time that I did run, and I told you guys, we gotta get money out of politics, and nobody's willing to do it. In order to do it, you have to actually call out both Republicans and Democrats by name, and you have to show how much money they're getting from all these donors. Otherwise, people are never going to see it. You see how animated I am by it. Do you see Kamala Harris being animated by anything? She's trying to decide what's good for her career. And no one even realizes that's the problem. Nobody cares about your career. Maybe reporters do and other Democrats do, but the voters care about what you're gonna do for them. And she hasn't even thought about that yet. It doesn't animate her. That's why she's like, should I run or should I not run? My God, if I was the former vice president and I had a chance to run California, I would do it. Why would I do it? Because I'd be like, we haven't fixed homelessness at all. And we spent $24 billion, where'd the money go? I wanna fix it, and I wanna make California beautiful, and I wanna do all these things. But she's like, should I run for president? Should I run for governor? Should I go run something else? Me. All these corporate Democrats are just empty shells. That's the number one problem.
So here's the deal. If Kamala Harris runs for governor and loses, her career is done. If she runs for president and loses the primary, her career is done. She has no more safety nets, no more next time. All she has left is a legacy of gaslighting and missed opportunities. And if she runs for either office, guess what's coming? Questions, real questions. She does not like answering real questions about Biden, about her record, about the lies, about the cover-ups, about the silence. And that record, it's got her fingerprints all over it. But she won't be the only one in the hot seat because there's still Gavin Newsom who's full of lies. There's AOC. And I just found out AOC is not even really from the Bronx, but that's a whole nother story. The whole progressive pack, they all face the same questions. What did you know about Joe Biden's decline? And why didn't you say anything? And here's the truth. They did not speak up because they were protecting themselves. They're protecting their careers, their fame, their money, the next promotion. Not 1 ounce of loyalty to the American people. They could care less about us. Just imagine it. The most powerful man in the world showing clear signs of mental decline. And instead of stepping in, these are our leaders. They're supposed to be working for us, taking care of us, making sure we're good. Instead of stepping in, they step aside. And they do so to save face. Meanwhile, that man gets used like a puppet by donors and shadow players because he can't even trust his own mind. That is not politics. That's betrayal. And it's really, quite frankly, unforgivable. Now, you might be asking, what does this have to do with us in Los Angeles? It has everything to do with us because LA is always the test market. You see, Kamala wants to use California as her comeback stage, but she cannot fix what she helped break. She was in power when homelessness surged. She was in power when crime exploded. And when $24 billion was spent with nothing to show for it, zero, she was in power. And while her career might be dying, we're still the ones living in the wreckage. That's why we speak up. That's why you stay alert. This is Wolf Kage Los Angeles. Stay sharp, stay loud, stay unwoke. And until the next time, peace.